Hey kiddos, welcome back. It's Miss Wagers and we are going to get started today with lesson 14 and we are starting a new story called Coyote School News. So let's go ahead and get started. For our learning intentions, we are learning to analyze a text so that way we can see how an author creates a story using certain elements. So we know we are successful when we can identify the elements in the story, like the setting, the characters, and the point of view. And that's what I mean in our learning intentions when I say some elements: the settings, the characters, the point of view, and then also using story elements to describe what is happening in the story. So again, looking at those elements of the characters and the point of view, the setting, kind of that text evidence that I always like to say to talk about what's happening in our story. For foundational skills today, we just have a fluency read. So we have words from German today, and we practice some of those words with German. And you remember that you can look those up using an online dictionary to see their meaning. For vocabulary, we do have a few words. The first one you might be familiar with, especially from art, and that word is stencil. And we're going to see the word stencil on page 63. What do you think the word stencil means? Did you got it? You got it? Of course, a sheet of paper or metal that has a design or words cut out of it. Yeah, that's a stencil. Easy. And then inspection. What do you think that one means? I have a magnifying glass. What could that be? It's a careful examination. So if I'm inspecting something, I'm looking at it or examining it closely. And then here's kind of a fun word to say: mimeograph. A mimeograph. And I have a picture of one for you. This one you probably don't know unless you've been studying up on a little bit of history. A mimeograph is a machine that presses ink through a stencil to make multiple copies of a document or illustration. So now your teachers have copy machines to make copies of everything, but back in the day, they could have used something like a mimeograph to make multiple copies of something. So before we start reading our news story, we are going to stop and we're going to read this poem. And this poem has several things in common with our story. For example, this poem takes place in a similar setting as our story that we are going to read. So I want you to really pay attention to the details that in this poem that relate to like the setting and where it takes place. Gold by Pat Mora, illustrated by Thomas Locker. When the sun paints the desert with its gold, I climb the hills. Wind runs round boulders, ruffles my hair. I sit on my favorite rock, lizards for company, a rabbit, ears stiff in the shade of a saguaro. In the wind, we're all eye to eye. Sparrow on a saguaro watches rabbit, watches in the gold of the settings of the sun setting. Hawk sails on waves of light, sees sparrow, rabbit, lizards, me, our eyes shining, watching red and purple sand rivers stream down the hills. I stretch my arms wide as the sky like a hawk extends her wings in all of the gold light of this home. So this one is kind of an interesting poem. So think about the author, Pat Mora, is really describing a setting here. They're describing the desert, right? And also I want you to notice, this poem rhyme at all? No, there was no rhyme. This poem is in what is called free verse. So there's no rhythm and there's no rhyme. So that can make it a little bit more interesting to read. Like you notice Miss Wager stumbled a couple times when I was trying to read it, because usually a poem, it rhymes, and so you get that rhythm and you can kind of get in the groove of things. In this case, you can't. So you have to be very careful when you're reading it. But when we're thinking about this, it says about the desert, and there are boulders and sand and saguaro cactuses. And we can see that from the picture. So we can kind of start to get a picture of what the setting for our next story is going to be like. So this is called Coyote School News. So you might stop and make a prediction. What do you think this story is going to be about based on this picture? Pause the video, make that prediction. All right, let's jump into our reading. Rancho San Isidro. My name is Ramon Ernesto Ramirez, but everybody calls me Monchi. I live on a ranch that my great-grandfather built a long time ago when this land was part of Mexico. That was before the United States bought it and moved the line in 1854. My father has a joke about that. He says my great-grandfather was an Americano, but not because he crossed the line, but because the line crossed him. In my family, we are 6 kids. Me, my big brother Junior, my big sister Natalia, my little tattletale brother Victor, my little sister Loli, and the baby Pili. My Tío Chaco lives with us too. He is the youngest brother of my father. The real name of our ranch is Rancho San Isidro, after the patron saint of my great-grandfather, but most of the time everyone calls it the Ramirez Ranch. On our ranch, we have chicken and pigs and cattle and horses. The boys in the Ramirez family know how to ride and rope. We are a family of vaqueros. In the fall and spring, we have roundup on our ranch. Many people come to help with the cattle and the horses. Those are the most exciting days of the year, even more exciting than Christmas. Interesting. So we're thinking, okay, so we know we have Ramon. He lives on a ranch. He lives with a lot of family. And he says that the days when they are having their roundup is more exciting than Christmas. Interesting. The things I don't like about our ranch are always having to get the wood for the fire and the long and bumpy ride to school. My Tío Chaco drives the school bus. It's not fair, I tell him. We have to get up earlier than all the other kids at Coyote school, and we get home the latest too. Don't forget, says my Tío, you get the first choice of seats. Ha, ha. By the time the last kid gets in, we are all squeezed together like sardines in a can, and the bus is shaking and bumping like it has a flat tire. I wish President Roosevelt would do something about these roads, I tell my Tío. Hey, you know how to write English, he says. Write him a letter. Maybe I will, I say. And so let's look at a couple things right here. So first off, we have a map up here. So you can see here's the United States at the top in the lighter brown, and the Rancho San Isidro is down here real close to Mexico, and then Mexico is right here. And then we do have, since there are several words in Spanish in this, it gives us some translation and how to say it. So we have the word Americano. So that just means an American. Or Tío means uncle. So he talks about his Tío Chaco. That's his uncle. Okay. Or we have the rancho. That's just a ranch. San means saint. And vaquero means cowboys. Vaquero. So those are cowboys. So when it talks about, they have all on this page, where'd it go? Right here. We are a family of vaqueros. That means that they are a family of cowboys. So our focus question, what clues has the author provided about the setting of the story? Where does the story take place? So let's look. So first off, a big clue that we've been given is, of course, this picture of the map. It shows us exactly where this is taking place. But also, let's look back at this first page of the story. It tells us that this is a ranch. So we know we're living on a large piece of land. A ranch would be kind of like a farm, but instead of growing things, they have animals, okay? And so it's close to Mexico, it says. Also, we can see that they have a lot of cattle and horses. So again, that can help us think about and imagine the setting. So we know they live on a big farm or ranch, actually. And then it has lots of cows and horses, or cattle, it says, cattle and horses. Okay. And then also we know it's a long way to school. So again, they probably are not living in a big city because it's a long way to school, so it tells us. So that's some of the clues that the author is starting to give us about the setting and where this story is taking place. All right, let's keep reading. Coyote School. Mira, Manchi, Natalie says, pinching my cheek. There's your little novia. She means Rosie. I like Rosie, but I hate it when Natalia teases me. Rosie lives at Coyote Ranch, close enough to school that she can walk. Always, she waits by the road so she can race the bus. Andale, andale, hurry up, we yell at my Tío Chaco, but every time he lets her win. Rosie wasn't first today anyway. Lalo and Frankie were. Their horses are standing in the shade of the big mesquite tree. Yap, yap, yap. Always, Chapito barks when he sees us, and Miss Byers says, Hush, Chapito. Then she smiles and waves at us. Miss Byers is new this year. Her ranch is 100 miles from here in Rattlesnake Canyon, so 5 days of the week, she and Chapito live in the little room behind the school. All of us like Miss Byers, even the big kids, because she is young and nice and fair. We like that she lives on a ranch, and we like her swell ideas. Number 1, baseball at recess. Number 2, the perfect attendance award. And number 3, the Coyote News. And again, so we can see, so mira means look. So when it says mira, mira, Manchi is like, look, Manchi. And then novia is a girlfriend. So she's saying, there's your little girlfriend. So imagine he doesn't like it when his sister says that. And then andale means come on or hurry up. So when they say andale, it just means hurry up, right? Coyote news. All week, we have been working on our first Coyote news. Natalia made up the name, and Joey drew the coyote. First, we looked at some other newspapers, the Arizona Daily Star, Western Livestock Journal, and the Little Cowpuncher. This was the one that we liked the best because all the stories and pictures were done by kids. Manchi, said Lowly, put me cute. What? I said. Sometimes it's not easy to understand my little sister's English. Miss Byers says you have to help me put words on my story, she said. Okay, I told her, but I have my own story to do, so hurry up and learn to write. Lowly's story was muy tonta, but one thing was good. She remembered how to write all the words I spelled for her. Even if Victor is my brother, I have to say he is a big tattletale. Chismoso. When Gilbert was writing his story for Coyote News, Victor told on him for writing in Spanish. But Miss Byers did not get mad at Gilbert. She smiled at him. And then she said Spanish is a beautiful language that people around here have been speaking for hundreds of years, and that we should be proud that we can speak it too. Ha ha, Victor, you big chismoso. When we finished our stories and pictures, Miss Byers cut a stencil from the mimeograph. Then she printed copies of Coyote News for us to take home, and we hung them up on the ceiling to dry the ink. My Tio Chaco said it looked like a laundry day at Coyote School. So, first off, we have the word muy. So, like, muy means very, and then tonta means silly. So, when he was talking about his little sister's story, he said it was muy tonta, like very silly. And then chismoso means a tattletale. So, remember he was calling him chismoso, tattletale. And then we had señor, which is Mr., and then grandote, which is great, big, or huge. And then remember, we did have the vocab words stencil and mimeograph. So again, that's just basically how they are making copies of their newspapers. That way everyone can see it and everyone can take a copy home. Okay, guys, and here we can see a picture of their Coyote newspaper. And I'm going to read it for you, but I'm actually going to read it from the actual book because I know it's a little bit small on the screen. So I don't want to keep messing up. So it says, stories and pictures by the students of Coyote School, Pima County, Arizona. Something new at Coyote School. Coyote News was the idea of our teacher, but we write stories and draw the pictures. The big kids help the little kids. Rosie Garcia, grade 3. So that's what Rosie wrote. About Coyote School. This year, we have 12 kids in all the grades except grade 5. Billy Mills, grade 3. So again, that's another article. They have 12 kids at the school. And again, think about how is the author helping us understand the setting of this story. We ride our horses to school. The road to Rancho del Cerro is a very big problem for the bus of Mr. Ramirez. For that reason, Lalo and I ride our horses to school, 16 miles all the days. The years past, it was 2,352 miles. We had to put new shoes on the horses 5 times. Frankie Lopez, grade 6. The perfect attendance. Miss Byers will give a prize to anyone who comes to school all the days, no matter what. The prize is called the Perfect Attendance Award, and it is a silver dollar. For me, perfect attendance is not easy, but oh boy, I would like to win that silver dollar. Manchi Ramirez, grade 4. Remember, that is the person who's we've been learning about, Manchi. So he wants the Perfect Attendance Award. Chapito. The dog of the teacher is called Chapito. He is very cute. He likes Lowly best. Story by Lowly Ramirez, grade 1, with help by Manchi Ramirez, grade 4. And then lastly, Señor Grandote. Our bus driver ran over a big rattlesnake. We took the skin and gave it to our teacher. She measured him with the yardstick. He was 5 feet and 7 inches. She hung him on the wall next to the President Roosevelt. We kids call him Señor Grandote because in Spanish it means Mr. Huge. Gilbert Perez, grade 6. Chiles. Every day I am asking my father when we will have Roundup. He says I am making him loco with my nagging and that first we have to pick todos los chiles. All of us kids are tired of picking the chiles. It doesn't matter that we got home late from school. We still have to do it. And then before the chiles dry out, we have to string them to make sartas. All of Last night, we were taking about 600 pounds of the chiles to my tío Enrique's ranch. I was in the back of the truck when it hit a big rock. All of the heavy sacks fell on me. Oh boy, it hurt so much, but I did not tell my father. He told me not to ride in the back of the truck, and I was afraid he would be mad. My hand was still hurting this morning when Miss Byers did fingernail inspection. Monchi, she said, what happened to your wrist? It's all black and blue and swollen. The chiles fell on him, Victor told her. My father told him not to ride in the back. Chismoso, I hissed at him. Miss Byers called my tío Chaco over, and they had a long talk. Back in the bus, mijo, my tío said. I had to take you to Tucson. Tucson? I said, why? You got to see the doctor, he said. So we drove all the way to Tucson to my tia Lena's house. At first, my aunt was surprised and happy to see us, but then my tío told her why we were there. Monchi, she said, pobrecito. Then she told my tío Chaco to go back to the bus and she would take care of me. My tia took me to the doctor. He moved my hand around. It hurt when he did that. I'm afraid the wrist is broken, he told my tia. I need to set it and put it in a cast. So I got a cast of plaster on my arm. I had to stay in Tucson. But for me, that was no problem. My tia felt very sorry for me. She cooked my favorite foods and I got to pick the stations on her radio. That night, Miss Byers called on the telephone to ask about me. She said she would come early Monday morning to drive me to school. On Sunday, my tia took me to the Tarzan picture show at the Fox Theater. It was swell. After the show, we got ice cream and walked around downtown to look in the windows of the stores. I saw many things I liked. The best was a silver buckle with a hole to put a silver dollar. Ay, caramba! I wish I could have a belt buckle like that. So, what clues do we now have does Monchi offer about the character of Miss Byers? What do we know about Miss Byers? So we remember that she's his teacher, right? So what do we know about her? Stop and think. Well, you notice that Miss Byers, remember, she's the one that has encouraged the kids to do the Coyote School News, but she's also the one that noticed that Monchi's wrist was hurt. And so she arranged for him to go with his uncle to be seen by the doctor. And now she's going to come to drive him back to school on Monday. So I seem to think that maybe Miss Byers is a really caring teacher. She must really care about her student to want to drive to make sure that he gets to the doctor and drive him to make sure he gets back to school. So we're going to move on to talk about point of view today. And point of view refers to who is telling or narrating the story. We call the person that's telling the story the narrator. A first-person narrator is a character in the story, and they use the pronouns like I, me, or we. The reader learns about the character's thoughts as the story unfolds. So in our story, in this very first line, it says, my name is Ramon Ernesto Ramirez, but everybody calls me Monchi. So right there in that very first sentence, we can tell that this is a first-person narrator because they're literally, Monchi is introducing himself to us as the reader. So for my web here, I'm going to put Monchi in the center because Monchi is my first-person narrator. Monchi is a character in the story, and he's telling the story directly to us, the readers. Then we want to think about what do we know about Monchi? What are some of his thoughts? What do they tell us about him? So again, I did include that he uses the pronouns me, my, I, we, us, and our. Those are pronouns, the words that he will use to tell the story. But then we can look and we can see here in this first paragraph, the things I don't like about our ranch are always having to get the wood for the fire and the long, bumpy roads to school. So Monchi's telling us about what he himself does not like. So we can add that. So we're giving a thought. He doesn't like that it takes a long time, or he has to get all the wood, and that it takes a long time to get to school. And then we can go on and we're looking for other thoughts of Monchi and what is he thinking about to help us get to know him better. So we can see, he said, what? I said, sometimes it's not easy to understand my little sister's English. So again, there's that pronoun. He said, I. So I said, that's one pronoun. And then understand my little sister's English. Okay. So he says, sometimes it's not easy to understand. So again, we're learning a little bit more about Monchi and about his family. So his little sister's English isn't super great yet. And then lastly, one other thing that we can see Even if Victor is my brother, I have to say he is a big tattletale. Chismoso. Remember that we learned that the word chismoso means a tattletale in Spanish. So again, so we know his little sister doesn't speak the greatest English. His other brother is a big tattletale, and he doesn't really like the long ride to school. So we're starting to get to know a little bit more about Monchi just for the things that he is telling us. Because remember, being a first-person narrator, he's talking directly to us, the reader, and telling us about his life. So let's go ahead and get back to our learning intentions for today. We are learning to analyze a text, that way we can see how an author creates a story using certain elements. And those certain elements, we will be successful when we can identify the elements like the setting, the characters, and the point of view. So we have done that today. We talked about the characters. We've also talked about the setting. And lastly, the point of view. So we said this is a first-person story. The setting, we've described the ranch and what that seems like. And then also some of the characters with Miss Byers and Monchi. Check. And then our other success criteria, use story elements to describe what's happening in the story. So we really focused on that by thinking about what is the setting like, what is Miss Byers like, and then who's telling the story, to really get an idea and to be able to answer questions about what is going on in this story so far and to get a really good picture in our heads. Check. So today, for your reading response, I want you to describe Tia Lena based on the details that we get on page 66. So you're going to have to use that text evidence to kind of make some conclusions about Tia Lena and what maybe we think she might be like. So remember, Tia Lena made sure that Monchi could make it to the doctor, and then she also took him to the Tarzan picture show, which literally means, like, guys, she took him to like the movies. But this story, if you haven't figured out, takes place in the past. So things are a little bit different. They don't quite just have a regular movie theater like, the big AMC like we could go to. All right. So that is all for today, guys. I hope you have a wonderful day. Be kind to one another. Do all of your work. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.